So how's it going, guys? We have reached that point of the Sonic the Hedgehog retrospective series that it is time to talk about Sonic 4. Yes, that's right. One of the most controversial Sonic games, aside from Sonic 06, of course. This is going to be a really interesting retrospective. I think it might surprise you to know what I think of this game. And I think I've thought about this game for this retrospective more than I've ever really given this game as much deep thought. I mean, I've played this game before numerous times, but I really sat back and thought to myself, what do I really think of this game? What do I think about it being a direct sequel to the classic Sonic the Hedgehog trilogy? I mean, this is Sonic 4. This is the direct sequel to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I mean, this was big. This was huge. This also came out of left field. No one expected this to happen. So without further ado, guys, let's jump right into it. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 came as a total surprise to gamers and Sonic fans. For the first time in 15 years, we were getting a sequel to the original lineage of Sonic games. This was met with excitement and outrage, as the Sonic fandom was split, with those excited for one of the most long-awaited sequels that we have thought we were just never going to get, while at the same time a section of the internet grew outraged by the fact that Sonic would be given his adventure appearance instead of his classic look. Sonic fans are extremely passionate, and I have to say it's one of the liveliest fan bases, probably second to Star Wars. And I know that sounds like a weird comparison, but the Sonic fan base is dedicated, very dedicated. As I've mentioned before in these retrospectives, and boy, oh boy, no one hates Sonic games more than Sonic fans. Just like Star Wars fans, they love to hate them. I mean, can you think of any fan base that still brings up bad games and bad movies time and time again? If they're so bad, why are they harped on so much? Usually a bad game or a bad movie goes forgotten. I mean, you see a bad movie or play a bad game, usually just forget about it after a few months and move on. It's wasted your time and everything. But unlike the blue boy in question, who's got to keep moving, Sonic gamers stick around and continue to debate and discuss these supposedly bad games. I love the discussion, and quite frankly, though I disagree with a lot of the hardcore's opinions on Sonic games, it would be boring if we all just sat around and talked about how great and wonderful Sonic games are. Well, I'm here to make a statement. A statement that will probably get me heat and get my fandom called into question. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 isn't a bad game. It's crazy how one's fandom is called into question when you admit to liking a game, movie, or album fans of a certain fan base don't like. Wouldn't you think liking more of something would make you more of a fan? Boy, wait until you hear my opinions on Sonic 06. Okay, well, so here we go. We're going to start off with episode 1, and it takes place right after Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and the Death Egg is destroyed, and Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles have all separated. I have to ask why. What is Tails going to do? I really don't understand the mentality of this game. Why is Sonic going in alone this time? Sonic was alone for Sonic 1 because Tails hadn't simply been created yet, so it really makes no sense here. Why are we just dismissing all the characters the original Sonic trilogy of games worked its way up to? Plus, I really do not like how Sonic looks here. He's so damn shiny, and it's just not a sharp looking model. You would think with all the technology for the Xbox 360, we would have an astounding looking Sonic model, but it's really just a mediocre design. Okay, it's not horrible, but just about every Sonic model before and after this has been better. Also, it really makes no sense that this game is a sequel and it copies and takes so much from the previous games in the series. Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic & Knuckles all grew inspiration from one another, but this game has way more than just inspiration going for it. We've gotten some direct copycat stages. While not totally the same and different in many ways, they all pull elements from previous entries one way or another. You could also play the zones in any order you want, which is a nice change of pace and adds a sense of open-endedness that has not been seen since in a Sonic game, but I'll be going through the official order. We start off in Splash Hill Zone and we learn we've got 3 acts this time around. This is really a retooled Green Hill Zone, and I really don't get why Dimps blew a great opportunity to have Sonic 4 kick off in a new setting just like Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. Something different, something we've never seen before, something barely comparable to what we've seen in the past. Why are we kicking things off with a throwback? Despite this, the 3 acts actually offer some solid level design, and it's mostly due to all the cues it takes from Green Hill, and having fun set pieces like the corkscrews from Sonic 2. But there's not a lot of originality here. But they're still fun to go through. All in all, they're not boring, but they lack originality. Also, we're introduced to the new physics, and I don't think these physics are something that destroys this game and makes it unplayable like a lot of people have said. Are the physics better in the original trilogy of games? Of course, I would agree with that statement 100%, and it effectively makes things less fun and more stiff. It's very jarring how you can't spin dash through the corkscrews, and how the spin dash as a whole does not work as effectively as it did back in those old games. Also, Sonic can just go from full-on running to a full stop in a split second, which just completely throws all of the original physics out the window. But there's nothing stopping you from completing these levels, and it doesn't make things unfair. The levels are designed around these change physics, so I can't really knock it as a flaw, but more of a confusing change that is simply not preferable. However, I think there's examples in this level that do provide some proof of originality and effective uses of physics that do seem familiar to the traditional Sonic style of gameplay, such as using these vines, which was a briefly used gimmick in Sonic 3's Angel Island zone. You will not be able to sufficiently swing on them if you didn't build up enough momentum to reach the ledges they lead to. Also, you have these zip lines, which are similar to the ones found in Angel Island as well, but unlike Sonic 3, these are momentum based, and you must have built up enough momentum and use the homing attack to gain enough momentum to gain maximum speed on them. So it is odd how it trades in a lot, if not most, of the traditional Sonic physics, but gains some newer momentum-based physics for certain level gimmicks. Now, you need these gimmicks to be present in order to see them, and these gimmicks are gone after these 3 acts, so they're short-lived to say the least. Oh, and the homing attack is here, as I just mentioned, which a lot of people have a problem with, and I don't have a problem with it. I'm not sure why people hate it. I mean, it's an added feature, and while, yes, it was added to provide more precision to the 3D games, it's not exactly earth-shatteringly bad that it was added. But having these random sections where you have to use the homing attack repeatedly on this bad nicknamed Bubbles, who's present in all the zones, which just seems like an uncreative way to make the attack feel like a necessary inclusion. This was an enemy used in Sonic 3's Marble Garden, but here he's just a stationary tool to use for progression, like a stepping stone of sorts. Kind of a sad existence, actually. Bubbles and his siblings just waiting around just to have Sonic use and abuse them. It feels like they're working more for Sonic than Eggman in that respect. Sonic's run progression is also a slower start than just about every game before it. It's a bit too slow because Sonic walking, then briskly walking, then jogging, then running finally just feels like too much of a wind-up for someone as fast as Sonic. And you've never seen Sonic portrayed in any form of media in this manner. With all these changes taken into consideration, I get that they were trying something new, but it is very strange that a hyped up game like Sonic 4 would make such an eccentric and questionable attempt to change everything we knew about Sonic from a physics standpoint. Try it on another game, but using it on a game that has a direct link to the classic series is questionable because it feels so drastically different from the classic trilogy that it's no wonder everyone lost their shit when they played this. But I remember I wasn't outraged like everyone else because, like I said, it wasn't a total deal breaker. I played games with things I didn't like before, and I'll do it again. I'm doing it right now for this video, and to be honest, for my own personal enjoyment. After completing Act 3, you will move on to the first boss level. Not sure why the boss has its own separate level when they could have just put it at the end of Act 3, but it does give you an extra opportunity at gaining access to the special stages to obtain a Chaos Emerald. So I'm not complaining, but it's a unique change. The boss is simply the Green Hill boss from Sonic 1, and why would Eggman go back to one of his most simplistic inventions? Well, Eggman does reveal he now has a Phase 2, and does a 360 flip, slamming the ball into the platforms, which is cool, but why reuse old inventions instead of creating new ones? It's almost like the developers forgot this was Sonic 4, a continuation of the classic trilogy, and that new stuff was kind of expected. I mean, if Eggman had a gigantic Death Egg robot and space station, why settle on one of your most archaic inventions? I mean, I get it, familiarity creates nostalgia, and that is the point of the game because Sonic 4 is steeped in nostalgia from the get-go by choosing to continue the original lineage, but there is a way of creating that feeling while still offering new material. I mean, come on, the entire classic series was available on Xbox Live at the time of this game's release, so why reuse those ideas in Sonic 4? Plus, they already did the ball and chain throwback in Sonic and Knuckles. Oh, and let's discuss the soundtrack. Tons of people hate this soundtrack, and while it may not be the best soundtrack, there are some very good tracks, at least to me. The music for all 3 acts of Splash Hill are extremely good. They're upbeat, fun, magical, and this is composer Gion Sione's first 2D Sonic game, and it's a very good one from a musical standpoint. He was going for a chiptune style akin to the Genesis, and while I prefer the soundtracks to the original trilogy, he did a good job making a lot of the music very catchy. Okay, well, let's move on to the special stages. These special stages are sort of an inverse of the ones found in Sonic 1, in which you control the stage instead of Sonic himself. When most people talk about these stages, I hear mentions of their features, but these are actually more than just rotating the mazes. There's some really creative designs going on here, and these are quite a bit more elaborate than the ones in Sonic 1. Truth be told, I always found the Sonic 1 stages to be the best in this series, and I know most disagree, but Sonic 2's half-pipes were always impossible for me. And the Sonic 3 ones were pretty decent, but not mind-blowing, but I just always loved the trippy nature of Sonic 1 because of the different images you'd see in the background. Here we get way more LSD infused trippy dippy 60s styles colors. Whoa dude, far out. So you'll rotate these stages as you try to accumulate enough rings to pass through gates that require a specified amount of rings, and a lot of these actually are mazes. There's dead ends, and thankfully they don't have as many of the goal spheres to make things overly annoying. The real obstacle here is the time limit and collecting enough extra time, collecting enough rings, and navigating the mazes fast enough. I never really gave these much of a chance, but for this playthrough I promised myself I'd get all the emeralds, and I did, and realized these are actually pretty fun to master, and I realized for the first time in 10 years that you can actually restart the stages when time is running thin. Now, this 7th stage is a real problem, and it took me so many damn tries to do this one right. They're tough, but not sloppily designed, and you actually feel a decent sense of control throughout. After getting all 7 emeralds, you can actually play as Super Sonic in any of the levels for the first time since Sonic and Knuckles. This is actually really awesome because none of the 3D games ever allowed this, and as a matter of fact, Sonic Colors is the only 3D game that ever did. Usually you would only get to do this for the final boss encounters. Thankfully, Super Sonic gets to relive his glory days here in Sonic 4, and it's definitely a big plus. Casino Street Zone will immediately trigger thoughts of Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2 in the name alone, but I do like how the acts differ by having gimmicks linked to their own acts. Act 1 is an homage to Casino Night. Act 2 utilizes a flipping card gimmick and some cool spectacle with Sonic running on a deck of cards that carry him across the level, and you can also rack up an obscene amount of extra lives by flipping cards and matching 3-of-a-kind symbols. I think Act 2 is really strong and feels very different because of this gimmick. Act 3 expands on the cannons we saw in Carnival Night Zone in Sonic 3 and makes you precisely aim them and shoot Sonic out to specific platforms to progress. Plus, these moving cylinders offer a callback to Spring Yard Zone from Sonic 1. Not as strong as Act 2, but the cannons offer a central gimmick, and I like when a level has focus. Overall, a pretty good zone, if not a bit too aesthetically derivative of Casino Night. I remember not really caring for any of this so much back during my first playthrough, but now I'm actually appreciating this level a lot more. It's certainly derivative, but the borrowed elements are used wisely, and things do go in their own direction for Act 2 and 3. And surprise, Eggman is commandeering his machine from Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2. I just see this as a lazy way of making bosses, and yes, there's a phase 2, but why must all the bosses be rehashes? Now, when it comes to Lost Labyrinth, many talk about the similarities between this and Labyrinth Zone from Sonic 1. That comes into play in Act 3 though, but it is not nearly as frustrating as Sonic 1. Act 1 is a stage I played a ton of times due to repeatedly failing in a special stage, so I replayed it over and over again, and I have to say I didn't mind. It's actually a fun, fast-paced stage with moving platforms and this gimmick of balancing yourself on these boulders. Once you get a hang of the balancing controls, this offers a pretty cool spectacle. This feels more like an ancient temple than it did in Sonic 1, and the backgrounds look pretty good and stylish. Act 2 has this gimmick with Sonic carrying a torch, and you come to this puzzle, and this puzzle is pretty frustrating, to say the least. And I get that they did this in the name of variety and trying something new, because this is the first intentional puzzle ever in a 2D Sonic game, and it's not a good one. You have to light the torches in a certain order, and I get that there's only so many possible combinations, but this is a Sonic game, and this is not really something we need in this style of game. It also doesn't give you enough room to operate, as you can accidentally brush other torches with your torch, lighting them up when you didn't mean to. This is just a roadblock if I ever did see one. I would have liked to see more of this minecart though. This would have been better than the torches. It reminds me of Donkey Kong Country, and I'm all for combining two of my favorite franchises. Act 3 gets a little less creative by using quite a few elements from Sonic 1's Labyrinth Zone, with the addition of this weird gimmick where Sonic suddenly has the ability to mentally manipulate the stage to move a block out of the way. I'm not sure how that works exactly, as Sonic is just levitating in midair, as you now have the ability to move the stage. Okay, well, that's creative, but it's just odd, and it's like, okay, why? Also, there is a much easier Eggman chase that we saw in Sonic 1, and it's a joke in terms of difficulty in comparison. It just acts as a lead-in to a totally unique boss with pillars coming out of the walls, ceiling and floor to try and crush you. Well, thank God they decided to actually be creative and throw in a completely different boss instead of just rehashing one from a previous game. I'm kind of surprised they didn't try to go for a more difficult version of the obstacle course from Sonic 1 to tell you the truth, but trust me, I'm not complaining. Mad Gear Zone is up next, and okay, well, this is where things start losing their uniqueness again, at least in the first two acts. Mad Gear is pretty much entirely Metropolis Zone from Sonic 2, minus the running on screws mechanic to travel vertically, and instead we get these gears to run on to progress, which are definitely less frustrating, but there's nothing that really sets it apart other than using steam to blast off of. We get the same badnecks, nearly the same aesthetic, but once again, I don't see the point of recycling so much of what's previously been done, all in the name of nostalgia, when this is meant to be a direct sequel. But let's be positive for a moment, as we take some time to appreciate the fact of how much better the enemy placement is here compared to Metropolis. These enemies feel far less of a threat as a result. That might sound too easy, but in comparison, it's a blessing. Is it a overall better level? Not sure, but I do like how Act 3 is mostly an auto-scroller, but it's a threat you're running from, which is a massive drill, and you do get a break from the auto-scrolling mechanic momentarily, but it's something unique to add to two acts of excessive familiarity. And I appreciate it. It adds a sense of urgency, and it makes sense that Eggman would use something to chase Sonic, who is known for his speed. And Eggman is throwing in the big guns to try and stop Sonic as he gets closer to his stronghold. It's reminiscent of the beginning of Hydro City Act 2 from Sonic 3 with the wall coming after you, but I'm not going to call it derivative because it's a machine and they're doing something different with the idea. The boss is once again recycled from Sonic 2, and the second phase is a little chase scenario where you must run up to a fleeing Eggman as he throws bomb balloons at you. The music isn't as good as Metropolis Zone, but not bad. Pretty good actually. I think I really like what Sione did with this soundtrack. I think it's those awesome Genesis style chiptune drums that just hit hard and fast. He got a good sound out of the tools he had at his disposal, and I enjoy it. The Egg Station is just a boss level and a boss rush, as you will face off against all the bosses. If you beat them once, you certainly can beat them again, and you do get checkpoints. The Mad Gear one skips the first phase and gives us a tougher version of the second phase, so that's something a little different. But come on, this is Mega Man stuff, and this game is short and really didn't need a boss rush. It feels like just an excuse to not have something else to build up to the final boss, such as Silver Sonic and Mecha Sonic from the previous classic games. The final boss is a real letdown, as it is basically an easier version of Sonic 2's Death Egg robot, and it is basically the same Death Egg robot with some new attacks. But man, how are we going back to the well even with the final boss? If I wanted to fight the Sonic 2 final boss, I'd play Sonic 2. Phase 2 has a cool visual of the robot malfunctioning, but come on, this is basically the same boss. Let's not dance around it. Even the ending is basically Sonic 1's ending, with Sonic jumping at the screen. Too many callbacks. Just be Sonic 4, damn it. So if you collect all the emeralds, you will be treated to a short teaser of Metal Sonic returning, showing us what's to come for the next episode. So the first episode is fun, and there's plenty to like, but plenty to dislike as well, and I really get annoyed at how Dimps got lazy and reused so many elements from previous games and went way overboard with these callbacks to the point of copying zones. Sonic Generations was coming out in the year, and we would get plenty of nostalgia from that title, so why was all this abundance of callbacks necessary? Okay, so it's time to discuss Sonic 4 Episode 2. So after a year and a half, the second and final part of Sonic 4 was released, and we will get to the main story in a bit, but we gotta talk about the content that unlocks if a Episode 1 save file is detected on your PS3 or Xbox 360, which is Episode Metal. We get to see Eggman reawakening Metal Sonic, who is still laying damage and deactivated on Stardust Speedway from Sonic CD. I like this added cutscene, and we get to see Eggman repairing Metal, and then we get to go through one act of the 4 zones from Episode 1, and they're all reworked for Metal, but the gameplay is basically just a Sonic clone with all the same abilities. It's a free gift for buying Episode 1 and Episode 2. It's okay, and I like having a little explanation of why Metal is here. It's just after being exposed to Episode 2's art style, it's disappointing that we have Episode 1 style graphics, and I get Dimps didn't want to visually redesign the levels, just redesign the layouts, but with just 4 zones in the main game, it wouldn't have killed them. However, it's a fun bonus, and we do get some cutscenes such as Metal absorbing energy from a artifact in Lost Labyrinth. So now onto the main part of Episode 2, and this episode is better, a lot better actually, and improves in just about every way possible. First off, this game looks great. The art style is so much better. Sonic's model looks 10 times better, and Tails is here this time, but still no Knuckles. Obviously, they were waiting for 3, so they could copy the same build-up of the trilogy for Sonic 4, mind you. Wow. That makes so much sense to make a sequel that is split into episodes following the same order of introduction for the characters that have already been introduced. Sonic and Tails touch down on Sylvania Castle Zone, and this shows just how good the game looks. The backgrounds look sharp and the colors just pop more. Sonic just looks better running through these environments, and it just looks like Dimps put way more effort into the graphics because, as I said with Episode Metal, playing Sonic 1 is hard to go back to after looking at Episode 2. Plus, hey, this zone looks totally new. It doesn't look like anything else. It kind of reminds me of Aquatic Ruin, but it's a bit of a stretch. It's more inspired than anything. We are also introduced to the team moves you can perform with Tails. You can now have Tails fly and carry you to higher platforms, or use his tails to propel you through the water. And you could do this crazy rolling attack where you form a wheel and plow through obstacles and enemies. Also, they adjusted the spin dash and adjusted the physics and the running speed as well as the running animation. You also no longer can just stand on slopes and actually react more naturally to the terrain, but Sonic will stop on a dime on flat land if you let go of the analog stick. But overall, despite it not being perfect, it just all looks, feels, and plays better. It still doesn't have the trilogy's feel, but it is better than Episode 1. This was unexpected. All these new features, the graphics, Dimps took all the outrage into consideration and really tried to fix the game. As far as first level music, this is not good. I don't think I've ever been let down by a music piece in the Sonic series as much as here. All these improvements and Splash Hill Act 1 is just so much better than Sylvania Castle. It doesn't feel castle-y or ruiny. It doesn't grab you and say, hey, you're playing a new Sonic game. It's more like, you're playing a new Sonic game. It's also interesting to note that you must play this zone first because unlike Episode 1, you are back to a linear progression as in traditional Sonic, and I do like this better. I'd rather work my way up to a level than just having everything unlocked from the start. It adds to the surprise and the feeling of progression. So Act 1 has a few brief underwater sections, and it's a pretty good introduction to the game with a fitting setting to get a hold of the new abilities. Act 2 is mostly underwater with a rising water level, and I gotta say, having this much water in the first zone just feels weird, but it is kind of the fifth level when you take into account this is Episode 2 and not an all new game. Act 3 takes you back onto dry land with moving platforms and this beautiful looking background. I mean, damn, this just looks gorgeous. I really dig the nighttime setting and how you can see the Death Egg in the sky off in the distance. I would go so far to say this is one of my favorite backgrounds in the 2D series. Eggman still has his own separate boss level, and thank God they didn't just copy old bosses, but now we've got a screen-filling boss, a giant new robot creation, and easier or not, I am just happy we get something that looks cool and something we haven't seen yet. Episode 2 is just a better experience. It feels like Sonic 4. It finally feels like an all-new chapter instead of just a nostalgia callback fiesta. As far as the special stages go, it's right back to familiarity with Sonic 2 special stages being the special stages for this episode. Featuring the half pipes with some added aesthetics, well, they're definitely better than Sonic 2's because they're actually playable, but I still prefer the floating mazes from Episode 1, just as I like the Sonic 1 stages better than the broken Sonic 2 ones. These are challenging, but they're doable, but I must have tried the last Emerald at least 30 times. Just keep restarting and restarting until your brain turns to mush and you will eventually get it right. Absolutely mind-numbing. They're just not fun. You're just getting frustrated because positioning and memorization is everything, and it's so easy to get hit by bombs and lose rings, and these ring requirements for the 3 markers you must pass through are strict. You need to get most of them, and then you get these timed rings that will disappear if you're not fast enough, and this added into everything else makes for a frustrating as hell experience. However, if you can get all the emeralds, you will be treated to once more becoming supersonic in any stage of your choosing. Come to think of it, why are we collecting these emeralds again? You already collected them in Episode 1. Why would you have to do it all over again? Now, if this was the Super Emeralds, that would make sense, but these are literally the same regular Chaos Emeralds. Did Sonic lose all the emeralds again? Did they fall off the tornado or something? Inquiring minds need to know, and we won't know. Dimps is just like, just get them again, you Sonic-loving assholes. White Park Zone is probably the most varied in terms of the 3 acts. You start off outside in the amusement park in the snowy mountains, and it's obviously Ice Cap inspired, not as good as Ice Cap, and the music is not as good by a long shot. You get a throwback in the form of using some tree bark as a snowboard during the avalanche sequences, but There's not really much else here that's too interesting. It's an average level. I like the idea of having big badniks with this polar bear that takes multiple hits and takes up a good part of the screen. Act 2 is way better as you enter the amusement park and you get better music, and I love the fact you're running and platforming on this weird shifting roller coaster. This is a great original idea for Sonic, and there's moments like this in Sonic 4 that I find it hard to believe that haters can deem the total Sonic 4 package to be bad. Say it's bad if you want, but give credit where credit's due. This is a fun level. Maybe they could have thrown in a roller coaster kart mechanic for some added spectacle, but it's fine as it is, and I like it a lot. Act 3 is back into the snow, but you'll be going underwater this time, and you have to contend with these walruses, who can be a real pain in the neck with their freezing abilities. And there's this one maddening part where if you're not quick enough, you're basically stuck. They'll block your path forward and you'll end up drowning. This is some trial and error, which is sporadic in the Sonic series, but this part is annoying, and the fact it's unexpected and happens so quick makes it pretty unfair. I love that Metal Sonic takes over boss duties and you fight him on the roller coaster. The only thing is, wouldn't it make more sense for this battle to occur after Act 2? You know, since it was on the roller coaster. That's actually a really weird choice and possibly an oversight. Anyway, this boss theme is absolutely fantastic, and it just fits Metal so well. It's just so menacing and just perfect. Oil Desert Zone obviously draws quite a bit of inspiration from Oil Ocean in Sonic 2, but unlike a lot of the zones in Episode 1, thankfully things are quite different, with a really nice background featuring active machinery and a really expansive view of the desert. There's definitely shades of Sanopolis Zone from Sonic and Knuckles here as well. In Act 1, I like the wind mechanic, which you'll use in unison with Tails to propel yourself across large chasms and hazards. Act 2 features the oil chutes from Sonic 2, but it's not used as cleverly as Sonic 2 because it's automated once you land on them, and you can't jump up them to reach any hidden goodies because there isn't any hidden goodies. It's just a spectacle that's not much of a spectacle because we've seen this animation before and it was impressive for 1992, but in 2012 this is not much of a sight to behold. We get more gigantic badniks in the form of these massive caterpillars, which are supersized versions of the ones seen in Sonic and Knuckles that jump through the sand like the sandworm in Beetlejuice. Act 3 has you racing through shafts that are traps that fill up with sand, and you have to escape before it's too late, which now in retrospect reminds me of the Shantae Half Genie Hero Desert level when the monster chases you through the shaft. Was Shantae inspired by Sonic 4? Well, I have to say this was something new to the Sonic franchise, and it's stuff like this that makes Sonic 4 deserve more credit. At times, it definitely is too derivative for its own good, but there were many attempts to experiment and implement new styles of gameplay into this series. Now, this battle against Eggman looks cool, as you fight a giant robot made from scrap metal, but it takes so many hits to beat. It feels like it takes forever for just a regular boss battle. You just keep traveling up the shaft as boxes fall and you wait for Eggman to expose his weak point, but there's way too much of a wait. You finally get to the top, and you still need to land one final blow, just a little too much of a slog for my taste. Sky Fortress Act 1 is a much tougher version of Sky Chase from Sonic 2, and way more hectic, with actually quite a bit of trial and error. These crate barriers pop up really quick, and then you have this section where Sonic has to travel across a huge chasm by using the homing attack on these turtles, and then when you think you made it across, this little bastard just comes out of nowhere and bumps you off. Then you get a mini boss battle against Metal Sonic in an airship, which you can attack or just choose to avoid his attacks until he flies away. It's better than Sky Chase actually, with it being faster paced and more eventful. Act 2 is, wow, inspired by Wing Fortress Zone from Sonic 2. But the music is actually better here. Actually, it's an amazing track, really great music. It's also a better design level with a lot of the annoying pitfall hazards Wing Fortress had being absent. In Wing Fortress, you would just plummet off ledges due to not knowing what was coming up next, and Sky Fortress is way more forgiving and fun. I love running on these gates sideways, which makes for a really cool visual, and it's not automated, you control it, and it's really depressing when you fall off because it really does look awesome. Act 3 has this really breathtaking sunset background, another striking visual example that Dimps was serious about improving the visuals from episode 1. And it's moments like this I have to show some well-due appreciation. The lighting effects and glare from the sunset is just awe-inspiring. Where was this level of visual flair in episode 1? There's a small callback to the Death Egg Zone from Sonic and Knuckles with this travel beam that sends you spinning around the environment, bringing you into the background and the foreground and around sections of the ship. A really good looking showcase of playing with the 2D perspective. It's automated but cool to look at, which still is impressive looking even in the Xbox 360 era. Oh man, they remixed the music from Act 2 and this track is just gold, Jerry, gold.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Metal Sonic is the boss as he attacks you again in his airship. This part where he launches the missiles at you is super annoying. It's basically trial and error as you can get squashed by the missiles in the air. What are you getting squashed against in the sky? The air? What? Death Egg Mark II Zone is the final section of the game. It's not a full-fledged zone, but really just a collection of boss battles. You will face Metal Sonic and Eggman simultaneously, and then have a throwback race against Metal like in Sonic CD. But the Sonic CD race is far more stylish and exciting. You basically win in the same fashion as he rams into a door again. Ugh, I mean, come on. Could they at least find something different to conclude the fight than to use the same exact scenario as Sonic CD? In Act 2, we'll face Eggman in the final boss battle that's pretty cool actually, and it is an interesting platforming challenge with shifting rings, and at least it's not just a giant robot that looks like Eggman again. I'll take it. So after defeating Eggman, you'll escape from the Death Egg, and that's it. You'll fly back to Earth in your escape pods, and that's it. That ending just feels empty, and if you took your time to break your ass and collect all the Chaos Emeralds, guess what? You're not rewarded with a different ending, you get the same lackluster ending. After going through the massive challenge of collecting these emeralds, it is absolutely infuriating that Dimps couldn't even be bothered to give us a simple 5-second teaser cutscene like at the end of episode 1. I mean, after all the extra effort they put into making episode 2 superior, why would they just completely do a cop-out at the end? Lazy bastards.
Why?
And that was it. There was never a Sonic 4 Episode 3. that was the end of it. After that, there was still outrage. A lot of people really genuinely didn't like Sonic 4 Episode 2 either. I get why a lot of people wouldn't like Episode 1. If you couldn't tell, I want to reiterate, I like Episode 1, but it is so derivative. They were going to have Sonic Generations come out the very next year, so I did not understand why they were choosing to repeat, Casino Night. Why did they do another Green Hill Zone styles zone? Splash Hill is basically Emerald Hill, like with just a few different little elements. Really, it did not make any sense why they had to draw so much inspiration to the point where they were copycat levels. And I think I've expressed that enough here in this retrospective. I mean, they really went overboard. And in Sonic 4 Episode 2, there are definitely inspirational moments, but they definitely branch out a bit more, and it's not as derivative. But the game relies a little bit too much on the past for being called Sonic 4, right? I mean, Sonic 4. Why should a direct sequel have to be almost exactly like previous games? I mean, we had progressed so much beyond Sonic 1 with so many added features and different things with the graphics and the level design. I mean, Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic 3 and Knuckles combined was worlds apart from what we were seeing in Sonic 1. Sonic 1 still will forever be a great game, despite the gripes of a lot of hypocritical fans that bash that game. It's still a tremendous experience. But, do not go back to it. If you wanted to do like one or two little things, the only thing that really bothers me is how fans are completely silent when it comes to Sonic Mania. A tremendous game, a game with great visuals, but 75% of that game is derivative. And I understand that, they handled a lot of the callbacks a lot better, and there's a lot of really interesting things, like what they did with Flying Battery and Chemical Plant, but the game is mostly callbacks, and a game that, reuses more zones and actually produces new zones. I think that there should have been a bit more criticism about that, especially because they gave Sonic 4 so much crap to fans about how derivative it was, and it was in Episode 1. But for them to stay silent for Sonic Mania when they went hog wild with the derivative nature of the entire project and game, I think that is the mother of all hypocriticalness. I mean, hypocrisy would be the right word, right? So I do not get that at all. But Sonic 4 as a whole, I know there's going to be a lot of angry comments saying that, you don't know what you're talking about, Brad. But I think the thing that would have really quelled this whole thing is if they did not make it into episodes. Why did they decide to make it an episodic adventure? I mean, none of the other games were like that. It did not make any sense. And the fact that there was a 14-month gap between 1 and 2 did not help matters. They did not need that much time to develop a game like this. Especially with Episode 1 being as derivative as it was. They did not need that much time to develop a game, and they used a lot of the same engine. They still built it on the same engine. They just tweaked certain things. It's definitely a better playing experience in Episode 2, but from Episode 1, of course, and it is visually superior. I think it's actually vastly visually superior. But it was ridiculous. But I would still like to see an Episode 3. I would really like to see where this series would have gone. And it deserves a conclusion. I mean, really, that is an empty ending. And that is probably another thing. The fact that they ended it like that. I mean, even Sonic 1 had a bit more of an ending. There's not going to be any cliffhanger. Just send them back to Earth. There's nothing even with, Knuckles. It just did not make any sense. And there was to be 3 episodes. I mean, that part of it is confirmed. So, you know, it's not like you could say, like, oh, well, that was it. That's the end of the story. I mean, really, but the Death Egg is still intact and everything at the end. So, I mean, just a massive, massive disappointment. The fact that they never finished this, and that Sonic 4 just ended up being a punching bag amongst fans, and fans just went way too far with this. I mean, I think if we, you know, stood quiet, we would have gotten an episode 3. I'm not saying stay quiet and just, you know, sit there and take it like a Sonic, you know, fan punching bag. But, you know, people could have been a little bit more open to it not being exactly what we wanted. You know, but they really did start improving it. So with that level of improvement, you could only imagine how 3 could have improved. I mean, I doubt we would have gotten the physics system from the classic series, but, you know, who knows how the overall adventure would have wrapped up. It could have been pretty good. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the retrospective. I know I did. I enjoyed making it. This was definitely one of the longer Sonic retrospectives, I think. We'll see, you know, how it looks in post, you know, when I edit this all up. But it should be a pretty substantially long video. I had a lot to say, and I hope you all enjoyed hearing me say it. So guys, please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons, and thanks again, guys, for watching and your continued support. I'll see you next time.